Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough with various win for Pro and Expert at the Vision for the Mountain Valley Tournament. A new course, or kind of, it's called Eagle Peak 2, so it's still the same old classic Eagle Peak, but with new hole locations. And this is going to be very interesting. Some holes are tougher, some holes are the same, some holes are a bit easier. And I would love to hear your thoughts about that by you making a comment in the comment section below. I'm in this playthrough going to try to explain to you in the best way I can how to attack the new pins with different wind angles, not just the video that I show you here in this playthrough, because obviously that's a video with a specific wind angle and it might not apply in other type of wind directions. But before we take a look at everything, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button on the video, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For those of you that do want to improve your game in Tour Play, Tournament Play or in Checkpoint Challenge, you scan the QR code here on the screen or you use the link patreon.com/GolfClashTommy in the description down below and you can sign up for any of our packages and start your journey and becoming a better Golf Clash player. Info box on the right hand side for the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also a ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there is always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. For the drive here on hole number 1, we are going to start with the quarterback at max P3 rest with the white ring to the right by the rough line. The idea here now is to get this ball to be down by the bunker. This is the classic way for us to play it. And what I'm doing here as well is that I'm swapping to an Apocalypse if I do have a headwind. If I do have a crosswind or I do have a tailwind, I will stick with the quarterback to ensure that I do have the club that gives me the best accuracy possible. You can obviously play with the rock as well if you do have that in a higher level, which will give you 100 in accuracy too. Now you can see the ball bounces nicely on the fairway down towards the 2 bunkers, and there is this little uphill there by the bunker which helps slow the ball down, and it's going to be very hard for you to go too long, so there is definitely some room for error there. Now, the second shot with the new hole location here is going to be different and much tougher than before, because we don't really have any funnel anymore, or let's say that the funnel is way left of the pin because the pin is now more right. So what I'm decided to do is that I'm going straight at it with a rough bump. The rough bump is played differently depending on what type of wind direction you have, because in a tailwind you will pull down into the bunker, in a headwind you will pull to a lower point as well, as it is at a lower place by the green. 10% elevation and true club distance. Obviously this could be dialed in with different type of elevations and sliders and stuff like that, but at least the idea is to play the rough bump. You can see we bounce into the rough, rolls up onto the green and missing just right. You can still play the same type of play in terms of going up the bank and roll down, but again the benefit from doing that before was that we played into a funnel, but now we're not playing into a funnel anymore. Then that shot becomes, in my opinion, tougher to drop than then the play by going straight at it. So hole number 1 is definitely, in my opinion, tougher than with the regular pins. Hole number 2, they have moved the pin out from the massive funnel into a slightly different funnel. And this funnel is harder to catch, in my opinion, but I do believe there is a nice chance of doing so. We are going to have to play close to the right hand side though, because you can see there when wiggling back and forth, it's that spot that we are somewhat looking for. You see the green ring to be by the rough line, and the spins will vary massively depending on what type of wind direction you have. So here it's all about finding a solid landing spot, and then from there somewhat use whatever spins necessary, because this type of shot, even though it fulfills the purpose of showing you a drop here in this playthrough, is not really a shot that you can replicate in a super duper way, because we don't have a solid landing spot, we don't have solid spin. So that's my recommendations to do so. But we're gonna play 10% elevation here on this type of rough bump, and you can see that we're dropping it, but again, we're landing close to the rough line. If you do want to take a safer route for the birdie, you can bounce on the fairway up towards the pin. It will most definitely not give you a solid chance for the hole-in-one, but will always be a safe birdie. On hole number 3, I think every single one of you that has watched playthroughs from me in the past, and especially here on Eagle Peak, you have seen me go just straight up it on the right, and then we play some sort of a backspin play. But now with the pin being more left, it has opened up a really nice sticky spot that we are trying to play into. Starting with a QB at max P3 rest, and I'm swapping to a POC and my sniper bag. Here I'm using spins that can allow you as a low-level POC user to use, and that's obviously the unanimously throughout the whole playthrough here. Some curl to the right, and the intention here is not really to go as far as possible. It's more to be in a decent position to the right, which will control how far we are from the pin. Now, have a look at the second shot here, which I think is very important. This will obviously help for each and every one of you, when especially those of you that do create shots, as I have no doubt that we will see plays that is going to be similar like this in the tournament. So you can see here now that I'm going up to the left hand side more. You can see here now that I'm moving the ball guideline, and there is definitely a sticky spot there from the left, which means that you do have some fault margin. Now it's all about finding a way so the ball is not coming in with too much speed. You can see ball guideline through the hole, one green square through the hole. Adjust 10% elevation, and then slider base play. And we make the adjustment, which I think, if I remember correctly, I adjusted 7.2 rings. Could be wrong with that though, but that's just what I think I remember. Perfect ball. Look how this ball comes in here now. It bounces and it goes up the left, and then it takes the turn down the right. I dropped this one in many different wind angles in practice because I enjoy this type of spot and I wanted to see how good it actually works. So this is definitely a good chance for you to drop an albatross on hole number 3. Definitely consider this pin to be better than the pin we had before. For hole number 4 here, they have moved the pin to be more right. I also believe that it stands in an area that if we do bounce up the ball towards the pin, it is a bit glitchier than before, which forces us to go a bit more aggressive if we do want to have a good chance for the hole-in-one. I'm using 2 top spin and 2 left spin. Yellow ring to be left by the bunker, ball guideline to be just through the hole. Adjust, we are going to use a 1-to-1 type of play in all different wind angles. It's just that's going to differ. Like if you do have 1-to-1 in one wind angle, it will most definitely not be 1-to-1 in another wind angle, because that will act differently, and we always want to keep aiming at the hole. I do believe that hole 4 is going to be a little bit tougher than before with the new pin. And the reason for that is that it does not really offer any type of good bounce up shots, where before we could actually find a nice and sweet bounce up shot, but now I feel we are somewhat forced for consistency's sake, and if we do want to have a 2 on our scorecard, to go for the rough bump. Take your game to the next level with our ultimate tournament text guides for expert and master division for the Mountain Valley Tournament Eagle Peak 2, which is Eagle Peak with new hole locations. We do offer something for everyone on our platform: checkpoint challenge guides, tour play guides, especially now with a new tour rotation as well, and then tournament guides. Make sure to subscribe by scanning the QR code here on the screen, or go directly via the link that is in the description down below, called patreon.com/golfclashtommy. Find the package that looks the best for your game and what you want to improve. On hole number 5 here, if we do have a crosswind or a tailwind, and I'm gonna talk about the headwind as well in a bit, but if we do have a crosswind and a tailwind, the only way for us to go here is to get the ball down the bank and get ourselves a wedge towards the pin. The pin stands way more right now, and it's still not going to be reachable to get an hole-in-one. So the eagle is what we're looking for, and honestly though, if we trickle onto the green, that's going to be a pretty long putt, and that's really not something we do want to do. So setting up at the plus 24 yard mark, which would be max P5 with the Apocalypse level 4. But when it comes to Apoc 5 plus, it's going to be max P4 line. You can see here now we roll down, we do have a wedge towards the pin. Obviously, when it comes to these type of play, there are absolutely some luck elements involved where you can definitely roll down into the bunker. You can definitely hit a tree if you're going too close to the trees and stuff like that. So it's something to really think about. In headwinds, you either have to lay up for a short iron from distance, which is really difficult to drop from distance. So we do want, but in whatever way we can, to roll down that rough and have a wedge towards the pin. So a suggestion is to maybe use a topspin boost ball if the wind is not really in your favor, but that obviously requires that you have invested in a topspin boost ball before. Now the wedge is going to be played an EB School plus 20, and here I do recommend the no spin if you do have Endbringer that is not level 7 or better. Endbringer level 7 or 8 can use the max topspin version, but be aware of glitchy spots, so make sure to move around to see if the ball guideline is moving weirdly or not, or disappearing for that matter. If you do play the short iron that is up on the hill, you're going to have to play that 30% elevation. It's a very elevated shot, and that's one of the reasons to why that shot is a difficult one to drop. Perfect ball with a wedge is going to be a very good chance for a drop. On the drive here on hole number 6, here we do hope for some tailwind, and the reason for that is because I do still believe that even if the pin is moved more right now, I do believe that playing on the left hand side is still going to be the way to play in general. So this is a P3 NMT with your Apocalypse. I'm using 5.8 topspin and no side spin. Here, using a little bit of side spin wouldn't be bad, because the closer we are to the right hand side, the closer we are to the hole. Max plus a 20 is what we are using, and you can see that I'm playing a perfect ball with overpower, and we want to actually just have a single bounce over that rough. You can use more topspin, which would obviously allow you to start further back, have a slower needle on your drive, or you can use a ball with more power, which will also give you a slower needle when you do that OP. Now, second shot, I do not really like what they have done with this pin, and what I mean with that, look at this pin location here. So I'm positioning myself with the red ring by the rough with ball guideline to go short of hole. But the problem here now is that we do have the pin standing up on a mound, or like on a higher point than the rest of the green, which means that the ball guideline is flickering left and right, which then kind of shows me that, okay, this is not going to be as consistent as we are used to since before. Now I'm making a total guess in terms of the adjustment. The elevation has always been here minus 10% for this rough bump, and my only recommendation for you to have in mind is, like, if you do have a tailwind, make sure to give yourself the 2 rings of cushion when it comes to the rough line, because it will carry longer than what it shows and will land closer to rough, and we don't want you to miss the rough because it's hard enough to drop this albatross here on hole number 6. Hole number 7, the last par 3, is the par 3 that stands out to me as the one that we will drop way more than we did before. And that's because, look at this funnel that we do have behind the pin here. So when I'm moving the spins, you can see that I'm using a pretty decent amount of topspin. You see I'm moving left and right. Sure, it's a little bit glitchy, but that doesn't mean that the ball is going to stop. It just means that it's not really displaying exactly the way it should. But past the pin there is a massive funnel, and here we do definitely have some fault margin when it comes to our adjustment. 15% elevation, and we're gonna play through club distance, which this is gonna be very close to min line. And you see here that we bounce into the rough, we roll up on the left side, and it falls down into the funnel, dropping dead center for a hole-in-one. So hole 7, in my opinion, this is going to be a rough bump all day and every day. I think any other type of play is not really going to be sufficient with that type of rough bump in mind. On hole number 8, we are starting on the right-hand side using a QB and a P3 ball to get our starting point. Look at the second bounce. I want the second bounce before the spins are added to be just by the rough line, and we are at max line. Once we have found that spot, we are swapping to a berserker ball, and this we only do to allow for a much slower needle when we do play. 3 bars of backspin, 2 left spin, and here I'm being a bit I'm being too conservative here. This is definitely a chance for you to drop on hole-in-one, but it's not going to be an easy one. But we do either need to use more curl or we need to use more side spin to get the ball back towards the pin. I do believe that the pin stands better now to get an hole-in-one because it stands further back compared to what it once did, or compared to what it did with the regular pins, and therefore they open up for the hole-in-one in a much better way. On hole number 9, here the elevation differs massively if you play on the right-hand side compared to the left-hand side. The left-hand side plays no elevation on the drive, the right-hand side plays plus 20, because it's a significantly difference in terms of playing down the right, in terms of like we're playing much more downhill. Starting with the QB at max P5 rest, red rain by the rough line, swapping to a poke and my sniper bag. Here, if you do not have sniper level 9+, I would recommend for you to play with the big dog or the cataclysm instead, to ensure that you do have the distance enough, and that is in headwind angles. If you do have a straight crosswind or you do have a tailwind, then that's totally fine to use a sniper no matter what, because we will still be in reach. But when we do have a headwind, the adjustment on the second shot is going to put us in between clubs if we do not have enough power on our drive. That's also the reason why I do play with a berserker ball, which is a P5 ball here off tee. Obviously, using a power 5 ball with more wind resistance will also be better. Now, second shot, we have the pin standing more left. They have removed the pin from the funnel, which sucks. But what we are going to do is that we're going to go straight at it using like a double bounce rough bomb. There is a really decent and big spot in that rough to play on. I'm leaving the ball guideline short, even though we do have a headwind, because the fact is now when we are adjusting here, we are going to go to a slightly higher point, which means we're going to gain a little bit of distance. So we need to put the ball guideline short. No elevation, and then obviously what slider you want to play, or club distance you want to play. Unfortunately, a great right, but you can see the trick here. It bounces nicely into the rough, speed is good, and we're missing this one where a great right should be missing according to what I think. And here the pin does not stand up on the mound and stuff like that. It is definitely a reachable one, but as we do not have the funnel where we can go past the pin and then go back into the hole, then this is most definitely going to be a tougher par 5 to drop from distance than before. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough with various wins for Pro and Expert division in the Mountain Valley Tournament, as it's called. This is Eagle Peak 2. This is the first time we do have Eagle Peak with new hole locations. Some holes is played much tougher than before, and some holes are played the same, some holes are played a little bit easier. I think it's a good balance, a good mix, but it's not going to be that gimme -40 like we would all have considered the old Eagle Peak, where we did have loads of funnels on many of the holes that are now tougher. Make sure to scan the QR code here on the screen or use the link patreon.com/golfclashtommy that you have in the description down below. Sign up for our ultimate tournament guides and start improving your gameplay today. We obviously offer different things as well, and when we do have tour play guides, and there is a hint, as I see there was a scheduled video on the BK YouTube channel where there is a course rotation coming up on the next season. So make sure to secure your packet for the exclusive tour shootout guides and be ready for the new rotation with our guides. Checkpoint challenges there as well. You can hear I can talk about this a lot, but we're gonna end it here now. Thank you once again for watching. I wish you the best of luck in a Golf Clash game.